My name's Scott Burton. Been in the car business since 1998. Sold my first car was a 97 Pontiac Grand Prix GT two-door back in April of 1998.
My name's Blaine Hassler. Been in the car business for about 15, going on 16 years. Spent most of my career at a VW and Audi store in Pennsylvania.
And my name is Will Cleveland. I got in the business in 1996, and I was 18 years old, and I made $5,000 my first month in the business, and never thought I'd spend all that money, and got trapped.
They're always nervous, right? Change is difficult for any adult. It's extremely difficult for car dealers, so they're scared of change. They know that they need to change and they want to change, but they're always apprehensive because often we're going into stores that are doing well, right? Typically, a store that's struggling doesn't sign up for AutoFi. It's the store who's doing well and they're looking to go to the next level. So there's that fear that change could slow them down or cause them a hiccup.
hmm Yeah, that's a good point, Scott. I think overall they're looking for that next level of customer experience. They see everything from Amazon to the Apple Store and the interactions customers are getting online, and they kind of want a piece of the pie. Unfortunately, you run into a scenario where the car business has done things the same way for 30 plus years. Print out a piece of paper and hand it over, and customers are sitting in the showroom for sometimes 20, 30 minutes before they get that first pencil. And they really want to speed that process up. And I think we help with that tremendously. And to Scott's point, I think I have a sticker on my laptop that says, but we've always done it that way, with a big cross through it, because we find that's what happens most of the time.
And the funny
I
thing
think,
is as different as our sorry, Will, you know me,
no,
I
you're
like to
fine.
interrupt. As
No, yeah.
as different as it feels for the consumer, our platform really is doing what they've always done. It's just presenting it in a new way, in a more customer friendly way. But we're not reinventing the wheel here, right? It's still the car business, and most everything they've been doing for 25 years. It's just a refreshed way to go about it, so that it feels more like the consumer's in control. But at the end of the day, it's pretty much what they've always done.
It's funny how it's this big change, and our titles inside of AutoFi, we're change managers, and unless they come up with some new AI term for some new title for us. But currently we're mostly change managers. And so we're going in, and this everybody's okay. We get there the first day, and it's almost like a DMS launch where that's that level of nervousness. Like, what are you about to blow up? And I think the number one thing we say when walking a salesperson through using the new tool, or walking a salesman, and they ask a question, well, what do I do about this? I think all of us kind of say, well, what do you do now? Okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah, do that. And because the selling part of it is the same as it's been since I got in the business, longer and longer. And, in 96, um, when I got in the business, the same stuff that worked then works now. And so you still have to, what do you do now is the thing we say a lot. And I say a lot of times, hey, you still have to be a salesperson. You have to be able to build a relationship, put them on the right car, understand your customer, be able to have a conversation with them. All of the blocking and tackling basics that we've done for 1,000 years still matter. And that's, yeah, I mean, that's the main thing. Once they hear that, and we start talking about how a deal is structured, and they realize we aren't really reinventing the wheel, we have a faster wheel. Um, they normally relax and get pretty excited.
That's a good point, Will. At the end of the day, you're still selling a car.
Mhm.
You think about a large dealer group, just from a compliance issue. If I go to, dealer A in the dealer group, and I look at a new vehicle on 72 months, and then I go to dealer B and look at that same vehicle for 72 months, right? And the credit's the same. Often I'm going to get a different number, right?
Mhm.
And so our platform um, that first pencil consistency where even a brand new manager is going to get that same pencil every time to every customer. And that's a huge from a compliance standpoint, um, but also from a confidence standpoint. I can remember when I first got in the car business, we used an old school Foursquare, right? Sharpies and all that good stuff. And I talked to a customer and the customer's like, I want to be 1,000 down. I want to pay 250 a month. And I go to the desk all excited. And they said, go show them this car, right? Get back from the test drive and I open up my Foursquare and it's a $5,000 down, 36 months, $740 a month. And I'm like, oh, I'm just like in shock, right? So, a lot of dealerships, even though they may not be using Sharpies and Foursquares, are still kind of throwing that first pencil out where they're scared the salesperson, and the customer to death. Whereas with our platform, the consistency, every time the salesperson knows they can trust the number, they know the math's real. It's not somebody made up a number. I think that's huge.
I think I was on the phone with the GM earlier. We were getting ready to launch their store next week, and he was really excited. And I had asked about their sales process, and they have half their staff is coming up a desk out process, right? They're showing the customer the car, they're going to the sales desk and having a manager pencil that first deal for them. And then the other half of the staff is running their own deals. They have access to the CRM and their current desking tool, and I asked, what's the process? Does your current sales staff show the same setup every single time? Are we starting a lease at 36 months, 12,000 miles a year? Or are we starting a finance quote at a standard interest rate or a sub-adjusted interest rate on a new car? And the answer was it's different every time. And I think we find that a lot. The nice part about AutoFi is it gives that dealer the ability that every quote every time is the exact same way. Now, don't get me wrong, you have full flexibility to change that and full flexibility to desk any terms you want to, any rates you want to, but consistency is king. And it really makes it easy, not only for the tower to know, your sales managers to know that those deals are going out the same every single time, but as Scott said, that confidence to the salesperson.
And I think what I've seen too, and exactly to what Blaine was saying, you've got even so in a big group, obviously it's really tough to make sure you have consistency across stores. But even if you only have 4 or 5 salespeople, you may have one guy on your floor that, oh well, that's Dave or whoever it is, and he does things this wild way, and that's fine and that works. And we want Dave to be able to in reasonably, I mean, there's a reason that Dave still gets to work there. Obviously, he's doing some things right, but it would be nice if you knew that when he showed customers numbers the first time, he was showing them the numbers the way the dealership wants them, and that fit the culture and philosophy of the store every time, as opposed to what Dave may think is best. And then the other thing with that I've really noticed and really kind of made me think about how I was when I was a desk manager. So when we were working desk out and we were customizing every single pencil, right? And there were no defaults, there was no automatic thing that came out that if I was on an F-150 that at 60 months, then this was the rate and this was the program I was going to use. I was using rebates every single time, or I was using low rates, whatever. I found myself influenced by what the salesperson told me, especially if I had a good salesperson that had really qualified their customer. So this customer has been influenced by, the salesperson has been influenced by the customer. And we know whatever the customer said they wanted to the salesperson the salesperson may have heard, let me see how to say this right. I talk too much, but when a customer tells a salesperson, hey, I'm trying to be at XYZ, my credit union told me they have 5.9%, yada, yada, yada. And then the salesperson goes to the desk and goes, I got to have 5.9% at my credit union or I got to match this to get the financing or anything. If I show this guy this normal 18% that you're going to show him, I'm going to blow him out, man. I don't have time for all that. I need to get this printed, da, 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 da. And so as a manager, I'm trying to be strong, but I also have that terrible fear of loss that if I don't desk this right, then this old guy that has his 5.9 at the credit union is going to blow out of here. Whereas if I had a tool, that was consistent and fast every time. And when I got back from my test drive, I was ready to present numbers and I just showed them to him. And there wasn't this big ceremony where, okay, well, let me go get your numbers. And I come back with my folded up piece of paper and give it to him. I just show him, well, here's what it is. Oh, well, what's that based on? Well, here's the defaults. Well, how do I mean, I wanted to be at $500 a month. Oh, well, let's go 6 more months on the term. And so what I end up doing is one, I'm not as influenced by what the customers told me or as a manager, what the salesperson has told me. And I find out that maybe the guy didn't care about 5.9. He saw it on a billboard on the way into the dealership and he just doesn't want to get taken advantage of. And he wants to see, well, what are the numbers? And when I can show him what I'm doing without a bunch of nonsense, um, yeah, it gives everybody a lot more confidence and it makes things a lot faster. And maybe the guy just wanted to see the difference between 60 and 72 months, and maybe that worked for him and he's just going to be okay with it. So as opposed to here, I have cut my deal before I've even started.
And I think the industry's been for, I mean, at least since I got in the car business in '98, talking about leasing more vehicles, right? And there's a number of reasons why a dealer would want to do that. Getting a lease figured at a low penetration lease store, especially a domestic in this country, is a nightmare. And the reason they don't do more of them is they don't present them. And they don't present them because it's difficult. And our system can do it in a second, right? So that's another big thing that I see is once the dealer has confidence that our numbers are correct, and they are, the ability to just show every single customer a lease payment is huge because we've been talking about it for 25, 30 years and we still haven't figured out how to do it, but now you can. And I think that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Scott. I think even at the stores that are high lease penetration, so I live on the East Coast and the Northeast region has always been extremely high lease penetration. Even some of the desking managers there and desking sales associates switching back and forth between 10 to 15,000 miles a year, all the different down payments, all the different variables of the programs, they might quote one lease, realize, hi, maybe I don't want to do that because I don't want to spend the time to build another one. Or the amount of trips that it takes sometimes to go back and forth to the desk to get that lease actually figured out. It can happen in seconds. I found so many more times, stores bump that lease penetration considerably from what they were doing before, just because to your point, now they can show them and they can show them fast.
Mm-hmm. I mean, oh, go ahead.
Yep, go ahead, Will.
Oh, sorry. So, yeah, no deal. And the other thing, customers don't understand why it takes so long for us to do math.
They don't have no clue.
They're like, what is going on? They're just, and when, we talk a lot about when we're training and talking to salespeople, we talk to them a lot about consultative selling, which we've heard. I mean, my first job, after my first week, my title changed from salesman to sales consultant, and that was very revolutionary. And but we've been talking about doing that for as long as I've been around, but it's not consultative and it's not cooperative and it's not whatever weird buzzword you want to use, and it changes week to week, but that's not happening when I'm going back and forth to the sales tower and I'm printing up another piece of paper. Or worse, my customer is at home and I've been, working this deal forever. And, they're at the point where, okay, well, what's the difference between 5,000 down and 10,000 down? But what is it at 36, at 36 months, 12,000, or do I want to do 7,500 miles a year? And what's all that? And can you show me that? And okay, yeah. And best case, I'm sending them all these PDFs. Worst case, I'm taking a terrible picture, crooked, of Sharpie on a piece of paper that doesn't make any sense. And the customers are like, I'm about to spend $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 with you. I mean, I don't know. We don't have very many cars even. I mean, I don't think there's anything under 20 anymore. There may be a couple. There's definitely nothing under 25. So I'm asking you to spend $30,000 and make a decision on that with random slow stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's just the speed
I
of
can't tell
getting a
you
customer the stuff. Anyway.
how many times that you're trying to get an answer to a customer and they're on their phone on bankrate.com and they figured themselves already. They're like, hey, this is not that hard. I can do it on my phone, right? And so when I'm training salespeople, I tell them to set it up. When you greet a customer, hey, when's the last time you bought a car? What'd that experience go like? And the customer will tell you, and you'd be like, hey, guess what? There's no Wizard of Oz here, right? I'm not going to be running back and forth behind the curtain to get you numbers. The same software that the managers, the Wizard of Oz, uses to calculate your deal, you and I are going to sit down and work those numbers together. And then when you do that, their mind's blown. It's huge.
And I think a lot of that comes from the top down, right? I think a lot of times the management team, the ownership team has a vision for how they want this to go, and I think that really plays, and this makes a huge difference because as we know, when massive changes come down, dealers are changing systems constantly. It's, oh, this is a new system every 3 months or every 90 days. And, even when there's scenarios where salespeople will say, oh, hey, I don't have to pay attention to this. It's only going to last 30 days and my manager's not going to make me do it anyway. I hate to say it, but I've been in that same position myself when we've launched new products. But the biggest difference here is when the entire store kind of gets that vision, and you notice it the week of the launch, right? When someone like myself or Scott or Will comes in, we're not another vendor that's showing up at your doorstep. We're car guys, we're car girls who've been doing it for a long time. We really actually enjoy the process of selling a car. I think that's the most exciting part. And for the sales associates, there's a little bit of that worry, right? You always get that concern. But when that first sales associate or sales consultant, to Will's point, if we want to, make it fancy, gets that first deal, and the customer's excited, the sales associate's excited, it creates that meerkat moment, right? Where everyone kind of looks around and goes, "Oh, hey, did Dave just get his first car deal in AutoFi? What happened there? That happened in like 15 minutes, and he didn't go to the desk 15 times. What's going on?" And I think that's really what drives that change. Again, that leadership from the top down, excited about it, really want to make a difference to their store. And then the salespeople watching other sales associates get deals. When that happens and they see how excited the customer is, it kind of just takes off from there. It builds its own momentum.
I think having us dig in, right? Like I launched a store with Will in, I think it was in Kansas City, kind of a sleepy little store. They didn't do a lot of volume, and they were about to broom this guy. They're like, we got nothing. We're going to let this guy go, right? And Will's like, let me go talk to him. So Will goes out, talks to this guy. I don't remember the exact specifics, but we take somebody who's leaving, who wants to be like at $700 a month. He leaves at like $1,400 a month. They make 10 pounds on the deal. The customer is tickled to death. And I say that not to brag about the deal and how much money they made, but the fact that we'll dig in, right? That's how you get them bought in. We don't just go say, hey, click here. This is how you do it. We go help them sell cars. And I tell every dealer that, look, I'm going to show your salespeople and your managers how to use AutoFi. I'm going to show them where to click, but then I'm going to dig in and help them sell cars with AutoFi. And that's the big difference. We're taking TOs. We're desking deals. We're in there digging through rehash with the finance managers trying to find a way to get a deal bought. We basically get to go play car dealer for 3 days a week, right? And that's really fun. We get to play it and go home. But I think that's the biggest difference. I've never had a vendor in my 27 years I've been in the industry who came in and worked at my store and worked car deals for a week. Never seen it, but that's what we do.
For me personally, I was at a dealership that we launched AutoFi as a dealer. And so Joe St. John and Matt came into my store and started working deals with us immediately. And yeah, it was the fact and I kind of get a little bit, I'm not very good at getting my thoughts together sometimes, but basically when we go into a store, what I found and what works for me exactly, and everybody on our team does this. The way we get buy-in and get these guys relaxed, besides our little stickers that say car guy and telling them how long we've been in the business, when they see us go out and talk to a customer or sit there on a TO with the salesperson, that's when guys really start listening. We keep talking about launches but that's where we see the biggest impact is when we go out and launch the product. We do a 2 week launch basically. In week one and the first few days, and it's kind of some point and click stuff, and maybe having some philosophical conversations with salespeople about why we think it should be done this way and how the product works and how it's similar to what you're doing now, but look how it's faster. And then we're gone for a weekend. And typically what we say is, hey, try to work as many deals as you can and let us know if there's any problems or setting issues or whatever. Please don't let it cost you a car deal, but write it down. The second week when we come back is really, at least for me, when those meerkat moments are happening more and they tell me about the deal that they did over the weekend, and they can tell I'm just as excited about them selling cars as they were, and we're really working deals. And I mean, I feel like it feels like, with morals and ethics, of course, but it feels like a tent sale. I feel like I'm traveling around, dropping in, and I get to sell cars in all these different markets every week. And it is an absolute blast. And like I said, I kind of rambled on that, but it's a lot of fun. And just like what a salesperson needs to do to sell a car is what we do when we're teaching them how to use our stuff. Is we're building relationships with the teams and getting out there. And we tell them over and over again, because so here's the downside. So here's the negative thing. I'll say a negative thing. So our company and a lot of companies like ours, I know there's like 20 million digital retailing tools out there. But the fact of the matter is, and this may get edited out, and if it does, that's okay. But the fact of the matter is, there's such a low percentage of customers that transact online completely by themselves, right? That was the idea. The OEMs, for the 100th time, thought they would know how to sell cars better than the car dealers do. They still don't. And they all thought that if we just give all the customers all the information online and they can get to everything they want to do, which our tool does, and there's several others that I won't mention, but there's other people that do that. You can get on a website and I can build my deal, right? And I can do my thing, and I can click to buy the car, and I can make an appointment, and I can come in. And oh my gosh, CarMax and Tesla, that's how they do everything. And it's the greatest. I'm not suing Carvana, but CarMax does some similar stuff. But what we found, there's such a small percentage of customers that want to buy a car that way. It is a 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000 purchase. Yeah, I might buy some shoes or maybe even a computer or whatever online without thinking about it. But I'm still, when we're seeing it in the numbers, I'm still not going to buy a car without talking to somebody. And I may not even apply for the loan because I'm not sure all the rules and all the stuff. And so what we do, and when we signed up at the dealership I was working at, what we were initially looking for was just a tool that continued the online experience on the showroom. Right. That is the main goal and the basis of what we do here. And several other companies are trying to do this. But I want my customer that when they do all their stuff online, that when they get to the dealership, I pick them up where they dropped up. Right. And that's extremely important. And it's great. That's still 5 to 10% of my customers. Most people look at some payments online, see if it's kind of the budget, get an idea of a couple cars, and then they come into the dealership. And they may come in on an appointment on a specific vehicle now, but they still are coming in there's still such a thing as a research appointment that we've got to turn into a sale. And that's the thing and I'm sorry I got so long-winded on that, but that's the thing I say my salespeople, they're the dealer's salespeople. But when I'm talking and training them, that's the thing that, look, your customer still needs you to be the expert. The customer still needs someone to give them permission to spend the money. Maybe permission is not the right word, but to make them feel confident that they have an expert involved. And most people still want that. And what our tool does is allow a salesperson to keep their authority, to maintain being the expert with some guardrails that we've set up in the background. But I'm not having to run up to the desk 5 times because, okay, they want to finance exactly $20,000. So I need $6,327 down. Okay, well, so I want to do exactly this. They want to see the difference in this and that. With our tool, all the ideas the OEM had that a customer was going to do by themselves online, the customer still wants to do that and is doing that with an assistant, with an expert sitting across from them, playing with them. So anyway.
How many times, Will, in your car life have you had after the salesperson went back 2 or 3 times and they said, "Hey, can I just talk to that guy?"
Yeah, exactly. Who's that guy back there? Can he come out here?
You're worthless. Can I just talk to him?
Yeah, exactly.
Or they keep sending you back because every time you go back, they get a little bit more money, or maybe they get that extra set of floor mats they've always wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, let me try it for you. Let me go ask. So what I hear you telling me is, if I could, you would. Yeah. I've been talking a lot, so why don't you guys say something for a minute? Because I love my voice so much.
We could have this call, and I wasn't sure if I'd even get a chance to talk. Well, I'm glad you're on here.
I almost feel like, and probably some dealers are going to laugh at me for saying that, I feel like that ship sailed a little bit. It is what it is, right? It's not new. We've had that price crunch has been going on for 15 years now. How long's Viato been out, right? That's not new. The OEMs continue to increase the cost of the vehicle more than they increase the MSRP of the vehicle. So, the available, but then dealers got that opportunity during COVID where people just paid all the money or and now they're having to shift back to, okay, the market's a little more like what it was pre-COVID, but then we still have this huge shortage of used cars. So used cars are actually paying some gross because there's just none out there, right? Like you can kind of ask what you want for a used car. The book doesn't matter. So I feel like, yeah, there's so much margin compression in so many different areas, but I think dealers have been dealing with that for a while. I used to work with a guy named Ed French, and, everyone talks about return on investment, and his big thing is it's really return on experience, right? If you give the customers a good experience, they'll pay you the money. Mm-hmm. And he used to say, like, if you wouldn't build an ad campaign around your sales process that happens at the showroom, then you should go back and cancel all of your advertising and work on the experience first. Because you can get all the people in the world to come to your dealership, but if you don't give them a good experience, they're not going to buy. And if they do buy, they're not going to be happy, and they're going to tell 10 people about how big a crook you are. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a lot of what our tool does, right? Let's give the customer a good experience. If we make it easy to buy a car, they'll pay us the money.
And
hold on, I'm going to jump in front of you, Will. You can go.
Yeah, jump in front of me. Do it. Step on. Yeah, no, you have to. You know how that is. Sorry.
Part of that experience, I think, really comes down to a lot of dealers that I've been to. The focus has been on back end, right? To your point, the prices on new cars are constantly, it's in a battle at this point. We have a little bit higher levels of inventory. The dealer right across the street, if you want a silver XYZ model, well, guess what? There's 15 of them for the customer to choose from. There's not 2 coming off a truck that are already spoken for from COVID. So a lot of this thought process and focus has shifted to the back end. And what happens typically, right? The dealer the customer's battling for 30, 40, maybe even an hour, minutes to get that initial deal they wanted. And then they're going to go into the F&I office and they're exhausted. They just like, I want to go home. I want to get something to eat. I don't want to wait. Or we close that deal and there's 3 other deals in the F&I office, and now they have to wait another, 2 or 3 hours. Oh, we send them to lunch. They come back, and still, I just want to go home. I think the biggest difference here is the deal itself is going to close so much quicker that customer is going to get back into that F&I office almost immediately. when we're actually still excited about selling, buying products, about the car. They're still kind of stuck in that ether of I'm excited, I'm ready to go, let's do it. And I think you're going to see, F&I profits lift just because that you're going to have your F&I managers be able to do what they do best and offer proper protection to customers and actually have them listen to them in a meaningful way.
And can I go now?
Yeah, you're good.
I have a second.
I'm done.
Okay. So yeah, no, exactly what both of you said, and it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning: consistency of a pencil. And with there's other tools out there. We're not selling AutoFi today, but I like it, so I talk about it a lot. I bought AutoFi. I'm just saying. My dealer bought it, but I said please buy it. But the consistency of a first pencil is one place that we get a huge advantage. And then the second place is the way we streamline this without going into details on how it works. It is really cool. Our sales guys can explain that, but how we also have consistency with the approval and approval selection. And the way that we shorten the time down between, yeah, this is the car I want to buy if the numbers work, and then getting the numbers to work is so dramatic. And I mean, what we'll find, like if we're on a TO, and I know everybody, I mean, Scott, you and Blaine have both seen this, where you've been on a TO and we've taken a customer through the process and they picked their little approval that probably wasn't as low a rate as they had said they wanted, may not even be the lowest rate we presented. And the salesperson and the customer go, well, is that it? They're like, yeah, that's it. Get your stuff. Hurry up, man. They're waiting on you. Go print paperwork. And, all that nonsense. And it's not nonsense because in most dealerships, every time I work a car deal, I got to pull my invoice. I got to book the car. I got to look at every single incentive that there ever was. I got to make sure that the way my desking tool is set up is matching what I'm doing online or matching whatever program that I'm doing. And so I'm looking at all that and I'm verifying all that information and I'm okay, great. I've got all that. And now I'm going to go print it. And then the salesperson turns around and says, oh, wait, they also wanted to see numbers on this car. Well, did you drive? Yeah, I drove both of them. They drove both of them. They want to see numbers on both. They don't know which one they want. Okay, so then I start that whole process over again, right? And then I'm doing all of this manually. And the reason I got my job as a manager is because I like the sound of my own voice and I'm a pretty good closer. I did not get it because I was good at organization and all those things. I wasn't good at being consistent. There's a reason that I ended up in the car business, which I'm very proud of. But, it's all of us kind of got here from weird ways. And now my most talented closers are clerks messing with stuff constantly when I need them. Either if I've got a extremely experienced finance guy that can get anybody approved, right? And he is doing data entry for an 800 credit score that's just going to do at least their 18th car in a row from me. And he's looking up residuals and flipping through all his sheets and stuff. Well, he's not working on my tough customers. He's not figuring out a way to get this other deal done. He's being a clerk or she's being a clerk, instead of actually working on the business and closing car deals and training their salespeople, just verifying OEM nonsense 27,000 times because I know in the back of my head, I feel like my OEM loves to charge you back rebates and find reasons why there's a problem. So if I can automate some of that stuff and it can be accurate and I can fit in with what the OEM wants to do and what my dealer wants me to do automatically, and a salesperson can just show those numbers because I have it all loaded in there correctly the first time, it saves the time saved is so exponential. We don't end up with lines of salespeople standing there waiting on numbers while the customers are looking in there to see what's going on and trying to leave. And anyway. So Gross, we can get gross back with speed. And you don't have much. I mean, where you had to advertise a car like what Scott says, and we've been doing this forever, and there ain't much meat by the time they get to you anyways, right? You had to advertise consistently online. It's a close, right? Hey guys, I know you want some more off, but you wouldn't even come see me if I didn't have the best price out there from the beginning, right? Great. I mean, it's a close that we teach. It's also true. So anyway.
So I think the biggest difference here is that what I would tell most of the dealer principals, GMs, GSMs, the crew making the decisions at the store on a high level is jump into it now. It's not something to be afraid of. It really is a total dealership and customer changing experience for you. It's wonderful. There's we have guardrails across the entire process. We're never going to hurt you as a store in any way. And I think you'll find that switching to AutoFi, to Will's point earlier, he was asking for it. Now he works for us. He believes in it so much that it's a really, really cool process. And I think when I first joined AutoFi, even I was skeptical. I'm like, does this really work? Is it really this easy? And it's absolutely mind blowing how great of an experience this makes this for the entire staff. So don't jump into it while this is still a relatively new process. I think before we know it, the entire industry is going to go this way. And I know in my thought process, I was always big on technology and getting the newest, greatest thing, and I never wanted to be left behind. But I think now is that time to make that move.
Yeah, and I would just say put the fear aside. Know that the people who are building this product and who are going to come in and help you use it are car people, right? We're not .com. I mean, I live in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So we're not San Francisco engineer type folks. So we've got some amazing folks like that on our team who help us build it. But that's not who we are, right? So we understand what you do. We understand what it takes to sell a car. And I would just go back to experience, right? At some point, consumers always gravitate to where they get the best experience. And right now, the car industry is, kind of the same as it's been. But to Blaine's point, over time, dealers are going to start changing and giving a different experience. And they're going to start taking a little market share here, a little market share there. And that can either be you or it can be your competitor, right? So don't be scared to change. Our platform makes it really easy to do what you've always done, but put a different skin on it, make it a little more efficient, and make it much more friendly to the consumer without reinventing the wheel.
I don't know a better way to control your process, period. If you want a consistent process that's going to give you more gross and not get you sued, we can do that. I mean, there you go. 40, was that fast enough? I mean, but seriously, I can expand and talk for an hour, but if you want control of your process and control of what's going on your floors, and to where you increase CSI and increase gross at the same time, which everybody said, those are the talking points. And anybody that gets a demo from one of our sales team, they're awesome. They'll talk about that stuff 27 times. But seriously, there is not a better way to set up safeguards to allow your salespeople to have authority and for you to control what's going on.
All right. Well, what do you guys think? Some good stuff there.
Brendan, it's so fun. Like, as someone who's been involved in this project from the very beginning with our earliest partners, as this was like an infant of an idea, right? And I was out selling cars at Hello Automotive Group with our like baby MVP in the wild. To have car people like Will and Blaine and Scott that are not, they said, of the tech people who believe in what this is doing for dealers because they live it every day is just like, sometimes it's easy. Like I'll be like really transparent. Sometimes it's easy to like get down or negative or like get in a headspace where you're just in the grind, right? And for me, it's been really inspiring just to hear their stories because their story is my story, right? And like what they're seeing as multiple eyes out in the field working with dealers is what I saw that made me such a believer in the direction that we're going. And I'm just so proud of that crew. For those of you that are on the webinar, just so you know, they literally must have got hired out of retail, right? Like Will was at a couple of dealers where they used AutoFi and then he left and we hired him, right? And, you know, Blaine was a GSM at a Volkswagen Audi store when we hired him into AutoFi. We had to teach him how to use like Google Calendar and like tech stuff. But their enthusiasm is very similar to my enthusiasm. And it's just wonderful to hear that the experiences that our team is scaling out there in the marketplace are aligned to that vision of what this business can really look like when you put the customer experience first. And by doing so, you gross more, you sell more, you eat up market share, you pump in and pump out. It's just really wonderful. And it was really fun for me to get to hear that whole conversation.
There was a question on that topic that came through that I think is pretty interesting. And I don't know. Well, I'll just throw it out there and then you tell us. But from what you're seeing, are customers more price sensitive or more kind of customer experience driven today?
So I think they're both, but I think there's like an elasticity between the two. The better the customer experience, the less price sensitivity they have. Now, are you always going to have that person that's willing to drive 2 hours to save $150? Of course. Like there are always like customers is this long, it's like a big spectrum of customers. But I think in the middle, I mean, you're going to have like 10% that are Ma and Pa flipper, like, yeah, I'll buy whatever. Just like, sure, sounds good. And then you have the others like, well, I'm going to double check everything. Like, and so you have like these, I think, kind of extremes. And in the middle, you have the customers like me, right? Like I want to save money, but I also don't want to spend 3.5 hours arm wrestling at a dealership. And what I think our data reinforces, and I don't know that there's a lot of causation or whatever in like the statistics of it, but that dealerships that are more customer centric and are focused on making the process feel not like a time waste, but like a value add for the customer, gross more money. And like, I think that there's a lot of stores that think that they run good grosses because they're trying to like whack everybody and run, 10 pounds front to back that end up not. And I think that, at least for me, what I've seen, not just anecdotally, but also supported by the numbers, are dealers that can make the process be a really clean and fast hour that's not wasting all the time of everyone by me standing at the desk for 15 minutes waiting on my second pencil. That does lead to a less, I would say, sensitivity to pricing on the customer side. I also have seen dealers that really get mileage out of angling their marketing away from kind of like the big pillars of automotive marketing, like we're the biggest or huge inventory or family owned and operated, and really moving towards like, you're not going to get the runaround. And if you come here, you're going to be in and out in an hour. And I've seen that, CSI surveys to this day, the number one complaint is how long it takes. And I think that is just the biggest opportunity to grow market share as a dealer is by truly solving the number one complaint of your customers.
Yeah, there's another question that came through. I think it's kind of fascinating to think about. So as a reminder, guys, make sure if you have questions, throw them in the Q&A and we'll answer these live. This one, so are you seeing a push more towards like a standardization of a sales process or more like personalization of the process by customer? And I've got my own thoughts on that, but you're out in the field a lot more than I am.
Yeah, I think that personalization happens the best when it's in a standard workflow. What do I mean by that? Like when I travel out to NADA, so I'm out there all the time teaching at the academy, and they have a special deal with the Ritz-Carlton. So I stay there for the same price as the normal Marriott. And you can tell it is really dialed in around systems and processes, right? Like they have a workflow, but when I show up, they greet me as Mr. St. John and they recognize me and they like know what rooms I like. And they make sure like they like what, like I have a handful of rooms I just really like. I don't know why, but that's where they always put me at. And I think that the systemization and the I would say discipline to be consistent in the way that you work allows for more personalization and nuance. I think it's almost like a way that we self-rationalize our fly by the seat of our pants kind of mentality to say that we're like doing it to personalize it. The dealer groups that I work with that are the absolute best, that are the most dominant player in market share, their grosses are all really great, their CSI is through the roof. Man, they are so well organized and disciplined. They are like well-run machines, right? And to the level that I don't think that we even talk about much. Like they, like I was sort of thing. Every deal they work, they're paper clipping their paperwork before it goes to F&I in the same exact order every single time. Like it's things like that that create efficiencies in the way that the workflow goes that I think allow us to spend more time focusing on the personalization. And what Will said at the end, and I put this in the chat, I was at NADA this week teaching class, and one of the things that kind of came up, and there's a group of sales managers in there that are learning to become GMs, right? Was talking about how everyone talks about you've got to go out and TO on the second pencil or whatever, right? Like there's these guys, and nobody actually does it. And they're like, yeah, because I'm not working one deal at a time, like every hour on on our schedule. I'm working 5 car deals right now. And if I go out and tie myself up in that hard customer that really needs me, I'm going to have salespeople here waiting to go from 60 months to 72 months or change it from $5,000 to 2,500 down or whatever else. And so I end up staying there and like leaving that one out there that actually I should be involved in. Whereas all this other information should be automated. I mean, a customer can basically do it on my website with DR right now. And so I think that all of those things allow us to deliver a higher quality customer experience in a way that is, I think, more pleasing to that customer or more like I hate to use this term, but it's right, like that delights them higher than them sitting there for 15 minutes waiting for me to go get information from a sales manager. And we like, dude, like Brendan, we all know that leaving a customer for 15 minutes so I can go talk to this like deal or no deal wizard in the glass office that's like backlit with a red phone, like that doesn't actually help my car deal. Now, what that wizard's going to tell me and how they're going to maybe move stuff around, like that might be helpful, but the 15 minutes of the customer sitting out there by themselves because they wanted to see what it would look like at 72 months, that's just not, that's actually eroding. It's like as the time clock is ticking, our dollars are like falling through the little like hourglass. It's like coins in the hourglass. They're like dripping down. And I believe that to be fundamental in this business.
So one last question that came through. It's really about like kind of like the level of effort. Is the juice worth the squeeze? I'm going to try to kind of paraphrase this a little bit, but change is a scary thing, and there was a couple comments made about creating those moments where you get one person sees a salesperson have success with it, and it becomes almost like contagious.
Yeah.
What are you seeing as far as dealers that are coming into this with maybe some form of fear or uncertainty that are unsure they want to move forward with digitalizing their sales process? And like, I guess, is the effort worth the outcome that you're seeing happen in the field?
Yeah, and I think what leads me to that is we are in a lot of really well-run big groups, like groups that have like national recognition. And we didn't start with them going all in across their groups. We started with 1 or 2 stores or 4 or 5 stores. And what happened was the leaders of those big groups saw what was happening and was like, wow, like that takes effort, but it's worth it. Let's go put this in 5 more stores. I want this in every store. And what I would say is most of the time, if you are committed to working through it, the outcome is unbelievable. Now, I'll tell you, it's not easy, but most things worth doing aren't. And so for me, I think that for us to imagine that things can stay stagnant, like there is no staying the same in life, right? Like in science and everything. there is either like progress or deterioration. And I think as dealers, we know this because when we try to stay stagnant, we end up deteriorating. Me, when I decide I'm not going to work on like working out and eating right, what happens is I gain weight because there is no like normal homeostasis path. And I think dealerships are very much the same way. And so I think that the effort it takes to do this is actually really powerful for the overall dealership, right? Like people close better when we're there training because we're teaching them word tracks about how to set up AutoFi. Hey, Brendan, we just got back from your test drive. This is the stock number we just drove. Is this the vehicle you'd like to own? That's a trial close, right? Like that is me getting, when you go, yep, that's the one. Awesome. I just got you to say that's the car you want to own. Great. Then Brendan, let's build your car deal together. What's the last word I just said? Together, right? Like it's a much bigger holistic thing. And I think that the benefits of it really ripple through the dealership. And you see salespeople. I was at a dealership last week in California, part of a dealer group. They're incredible. Grand opening, a huge new store in San Diego. It's stunning. And I was there selling cars with them in a trailer. And the salespeople that I was there selling cars, every one of them selling more than 20 cars a month. They're 23 years old. They're as Gen Z as can be. And they've been there now for 2 years. And they use AutoFi every single time. And it's just how they know to do it. And for me, that like Will said, that consistency in like repetitions, it's why they're so good. And I don't think that's AutoFi. I think AutoFi gives them a way to play that game consistently that leads to those outcomes. And I would say like 1,000%. If I went back to being a GM of a Toyota store tomorrow, which is what I did before I came to AutoFi, right? If I was running a store again, I would use AutoFi and I would have a consistent process that my salespeople work every single time because I know how this business works. And it is a law of averages or a numbers game played out over hundreds of little micro moments. And the only way I can ensure the highest probability that we're going to win is winning every one of those little micro moments. And the consistency that AutoFi brings is, I think, paramount to me being able to do that.